And everyone can hopefully see my presentation, right? Give a thumbs up. I think Raquel told me you could. All right, so welcome to our first NASEP workshop. This is what our workshop agenda will be. We'll go over the community norms, give an introduction to what the research project is, discuss what research is, talk about the goals of the project, and also talk about the pre-assignment that some of you all did. So our goal for these meetings, and these are based off of what we discussed in the summer when we had the expectations and things that we did with our small groups. So I've put them here just as a reminder, since it has been some time since we all saw one another. So our community norms are to keep focused on a common goal, strive to understand multiple perspectives, be willing to be disturbed and change your mind, critique ideas and concepts, not people, share the space, stay engaged in the work and respect each other's time, recognize when each of us needs space for emotions, for a pause to process, accept non-closure with what we're doing and understand that it's building, and that some of the things we'll talk about may provide that closure at a later time, and also apologize and work to repair damage if a norm is violated. Again, this is a living document, so if you feel like anything has been missed, please provide feedback and I will make sure to add that to our future meetings. So another fun thing that we did since the last time we talked was the fall assembly. So I just wanted to share some photos here from the fall assembly. This was when we went to Winter Rock. I think for most folks, it may have been their first time. Even for the Navajos that are from the res, it might have been their first time to that area. So that was one of the goofy photos. The upper photo is from NASEP and also other team members who participated in the float. So those from the Miss Native American University of Arizona, Native SOAR, and the other programs. And then the lower photo was from when we were walking in the parade. So that was so helpful for you all to be there, and I hope you all had a good time. So just wanted to highlight some of those photos here. And something that I'm trying to present more is our partnership with the STEM Push Network. The STEM Push Network is a great group of a bunch of different pre-college STEM programs. So MESA is a part of it, NASEP is a part of it, and a bunch of other pre-college STEM programs that work in STEM are involved from across the nation. And our big aim with this group is to increase persistence in STEM by strengthening and credentialing out of school time, especially for those programs that are non-cost. And we're excited to share that through STEM Push, NASEP is undergoing accreditation to be considered an accredited program with Middle States College. That looks good because if you're an accredited program, college and universities will be like, oh, they've hit these standards that that this Middle States College is requiring for different pre-college STEM programs. So they must be, these students who participate must be committed and doing different STEM things that are really at a high level. And so we've been recommended for accreditation and we'll hopefully have that status in their next meeting in November. So I will keep you all updated with that, but that's going to play into another workshop that we're going to be having later with the University of Arizona. And it's also connected to the common application, because with the common application, you can say that you're part of the STEM Push network, which will also signify to colleges that you're applying to, that you're a part of these great out of school STEM programs. So you'll be hearing more about STEM Push and how we're involved, but I just wanted to sort of provide that introduction, since this may be one of the first times that we're letting you all know that we're part of this group. We did have a meeting to talk about our goals and everything in Ohio. So that top photo was from us about 2 weeks ago discussing different things. So yeah. All right, so one of the first things we're gonna do is I'm gonna open up a poll here to ask you all what questions you have about the research project. I've received a few from people just sort of offline. And I want to make sure that within this space that we're at least getting to some of those questions or having that be the primary focus in other workshops. So right now, if you can take a moment to answer this poll here, it should be open. If I can get a thumbs up from someone that you see it, or you can put in the chat, yes, you see it. I did put launch. Raquel, do you see the poll?
Yes, I saw it the other one. Yes, I do see the poll.
Great. So yeah, if you want to take your moment, this is only one question here, and if you have multiple questions, feel free to include all of those questions in the text box there. So, because you won't be prompted again to add another one. So any questions that you have, so far I have 4 responses. So I'll have it open for a little while longer, and then we'll continue with the workshop.
The poll isn't on my screen.
Great. Okay, so if that's the case, feel free to send the question to myself in the chat, or you can just put it in the chat as well. But if you want it to be anonymous, you can just send it to me directly, and I will take note of your question.
Okay, did we have to answer it if we don't have any questions?
If you don't have any questions, it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, about 20 more seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. Right, some of the questions were, does it have to be about an environmental topic or something else? What is the rubric if someone's able to align the project to their class? Some would like to understand more about what the project is and think it'll be covered in the workshop. The research plan, there's some questions about the research plan and what their topic should be. Another question is about topic, when they'll be receiving feedback, and what are some deadlines for the science fairs. Yes, and yes, related to topics. So there's some similarities. So thank you all for taking the time to answer that question. I think that it's really helpful to sort of frame the things that we focus on. So hopefully I'll be covering most of those things within this workshop, and if not, I'll make sure to answer more of those questions in the next workshop or in follow-up communications. So I want to first frame something with you all, because I think that it's very important to provide some context and understanding as to why this is important. This photo here is from the Indigenous Stewards magazine, and it's from the Environmental Health Sciences College, specifically with the Southwest Environmental Health Sciences Center, under the College of Pharmacy, actually. And within this magazine, they have a lot of cool information where they highlight how Indigenous people are undertaking science and research. And they've had this magazine that has come out for multiple years now. And one of the key takeaways is we have been on this land for a very long time. For all of our tribes, we've been on this land for a very long time. And with that, we have lived lives that are harmonious with not only the animals and other beings of this land, but also with Mother Earth and the environment. And so through that, we've been caretakers of this land since time immemorial, observing, seeing how things can be planted, how things can be done in ways for better improvement. A big part of science is trying different things and seeing how things can improve. And our people have done that for a very long time. So recognizing that we have always been scientists and we will continue to be scientists. An example here is this person who is a weaver. They've done studies where they discuss how weaving takes a lot of mathematical concepts and things in order to create designs that are so beautiful and intricate. And so I believe that there's also a group at Diné College that it's called like weaving math circles. So they have integrated this concept into ideas of math and problem solving. So that is one way that we've included this in not only our art, but also ways of life. Another example here is our different channels that were created in Southern Arizona for the Hohokam people. They created this canal system. And over time, it did get disrupted and covered. But when current people were digging up areas to make updated canals, they were finding these ancient canals and were like, oh, people have done this before. And it's really amazing that they figured it out and did things that worked well with tools and things that were used way back in the day. So another great example. And with that, want to bring up a research situation that's more modern, that also brings up the perspective of ethics, especially working with tribal communities. So there was this situation where the Havasupai tribe was in partnership with a researcher who, well, I wouldn't say they were in partnership per se, as you'll see from the context here, but research was being done on the Havasupai tribe. They were concerned about diabetes rates in their community. And the researcher was someone from ASU named her Dr. Teresi Markel. And they were collecting blood samples from the Havasupai tribe. And again, they were giving consent for their blood to be used for information that related to diabetes. However, this person took advantage of the tribe and started to use those blood samples for a completely different study that they did not agree to. I believe that their focus was on like mental disorders and schizophrenia and things like that. And when individuals found out that that's what was happening, they said, hey, this is not what we agreed to. And it really brought about a movement of like, okay, so if tribes are going to be involved with research, how is it done in a respectful way, a way where informed consent is provided? So with the geoscience project, I know that one of the options was to figure out how your tribe conducts research with others. Some tribes have adopted the Institutional Review Board or an IRB, where if people want to do research with the tribe, they have to submit this proposal and get that stamp of approval to say, we're willing to do this. These are the steps we're going to follow. Other smaller tribes might work with the Intertribal Council of Arizona if they don't have their own IRB processes. But it really brought to light this need for not only ethics to be adhered to within research, but also the need for Indigenous researchers to be present and to be conducting research with their tribes, because we know our communities, we have the best interest of our communities and really want to know why to have that positive impact for our people. And so there has been this rise of Indigenous research methods to ensure that one, tribes are respected, that they're co-leaders in the process, and that ensuring that the findings of what's happened are shared with the community, because that's a very important step. They're taking the time to give blood or take surveys and do different things. So it's important that the people who participate know how their time and efforts were, what the results of those were. So I know that I've taken classes on this with the university. Some people who do this type of work are like Dr. Stephanie Carroll, Dr. Felina Cordova Marks. So those are just a few examples. And I also share this because, oh, spelling error, but this was yet, within our community, Indigenous people comprise less than 5% of the world's population, yet most often we're protecting 80% of the world's global diversity. And so our voices really do matter in the protection of Mother Earth, and also should be heard in the other areas of STEM as well, because it's important to have our voices heard and for us to be represented, because a lot of the times we're not included in research, either because they say that the sample size to include us is too small, or there's not as many Native researchers who are focusing these questions that will help the community within research. And so it's a really important topic in a lot of different ways and to a lot of different fields, not just within the geosciences and the environment. Again, as Native people, we're still here. We've continued to be scientists, and one way to show resistance is to promote visibility of these issues through research. And one way we try to do this is by indigenizing how we do this and figuring out what topics are important to ourselves, to our community. And so that was also part of the goal with the geoscience project, was to help you all get to thinking like, what's important to you? What is something that you want to ask or test? And sometimes those are related to things that we see within our community. And yeah, this is a photo here from a 2017 participant. We'll see a little better view of this poster a little bit later, but we'll go through some of this quickly because I have been talking a lot and I want to get to some of you all's questions. But we did start this project in 2012 with the American Indian Science and Engineering Society chapter. And this was the ACES group meeting and figuring out what we wanted to do. And the focus at the time was with geosciences, because there weren't as many geoscientists within the field. Dr. Carletta Chief is in the blue in the corner here. She's a hydrologist and also a former Miss Navajo. She is in the hydrology department here and helps support the creation of this. And she's still part of the ACES chapter today. This was our first group of NASEP students that participated in the geoscience research project. Here are some more examples here. You might see that some students did this multiple times, multiple years. And through our continuation of having this work, we did receive a trophy from SARSEF because we've had a lot of students participate in this project throughout many years. And this is just a listing of some of the types of project names and the awards that they won. So I believe within this year, we had 6 winners and they were in different categories, including a lot of them are water related, but it depends on if it's rainwater, water contamination, spring water. So there's a lot of different things related to water here. And these are also awards from the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair as well. One of our students got 3rd place overall in the environmental sciences as well, and another student received 2nd place, so that was really cool. So what are some of the benefits of participating in this? You gain hands-on STEM experience. It's something you can put on your resume. You can talk about it in scholarships. It looks great on college admissions. Some of those awards that I had shown in that previous slide, students received monetary things like a check or like a mini scholarship and things like that. And if you're wanting to present this research topic, there are spaces in like conferences where you can also present your poster at conferences, especially in college. And if you have a poster that you present for a conference, then sometimes they'll even provide you travel funding in order to attend. And that's really cool because you get to see different parts of the world, network with different people, and learn about different STEM topics as well. Opportunities to present and compete. So there's the National Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. It's often shortened to JSHS. There's the Southern Arizona Research Science and Engineering Fair. There's also the Arizona Science and Engineering Fair. There's the National American Indian Science and Engineering Fair, which is presented through ACES. This one is virtual and in person. There might be some tribal science fairs. I haven't heard of like a Navajo Nation one recently, but I'll check with them to see if they might be having one this year. They didn't have one last year. Your high school might be hosting a science fair as well. And you can also present at conferences. Regionally, I think this past year, ACES was hosted in Tucson. And so some students presented their research at the regional ACES conference that was here. Or there might be one in your community as well. So with this, I guess to answer some of the deadline questions, it really depends on what event that you're aiming for. So the National Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, that one is the first one that usually generally happens. Before that, the high school science fair, those will happen before the regional and state fairs. So those ones will likely be sooner than SARSEF, AZCEF, or NMCEF for New Mexico, and also the National American Indian Science and Engineering Fair. So we will work with you based off of what event that you're planning to compete in and sort of go from there to see when you'll need to have certain things done. It will be different depending on where you're from. For those that are in Arizona, versus those in New Mexico versus those from out of state, like Colorado and different things like that. Some of the different science fairs have different deadlines. But we'll make sure to share that out. We have it on the NASEP on a page calendar as well to sort of have different tasks and things for when some of those things will be done. Also, if for the folks that may have just got on, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. So the ways that we will support you, we're going to be assisting you with these projects throughout the year. We will help you if you have questions on like, okay, I know I am deciding on this topic, but I'm trying to figure out how I would test it. We can help by providing materials. So once you've figured out, okay, I want to test this, but I need X, Y, and Z in order to do so, we could help with that. We've negotiated with partners in the past to waive the fees to enter the science fair, because sometimes it's like $10 or $20 to enter. So we'll cover that, either get it waived or covered. In the past, we used to have these big research posters, these huge ones. They don't really require them anymore because I think a lot of people have gone digital since COVID. But if you would like a poster printed, a physical copy, we have these 3x4 posters that we can print. So if you wanted a physical one to put up different places, so we'll cover the cost of that as well. Oh, also, you can't see it because my background is not there, but we also, behind me, there's like boxes of water quality test kits that were provided to us by the Tohono Water Resources Department. So if you are wanting to do something with water quality, we already have water quality test kits available, and they test different things, including for pesticides, nitrates, nitrites, water hardness, pH, bacteria, chlorine, and probably something else that I'm forgetting, but there's a pretty wide range of things that you can test for. We also have a few water or air quality sensors. But again, if you're wanting to do something that's completely different from that, working together to create this materials list and figuring out how we can provide support to help you test whatever it is that you're asking. All right, so what we're asking from you all in this process is communication on the progression of your project, the motivation to complete your project from a distance, because we're doing a lot of this online, and accountability when it comes to deadlines. I've already shared this a little bit in some of the email communications. We're very happy to provide extensions on deadlines, and I know that some of you have sent the geoscience projects and we're like, I'm sorry that this was late and whatnot. That's perfectly fine. You're making progress, so that's great. The only thing that we can't change is just the deadlines of other people. So we can't change SARCEF's deadlines, ACCEF's deadlines. And so those ones are going to be very important to adhere to and make sure that we're on time with those. But with us, we're happy to extend things if needed. And the deadlines that we set for those are to just make sure that we're on track for whatever project and whatever event that you're deciding to compete in. So some things to think about is, if you're not certain at this point what it is that you're wanting to do, then yes, community, you're able to send it through Gmail. If you're not sure what you want to do, then just take a moment to think first, what is it that you're passionate about? So just take a second right now to think. You can close your eyes if you need to, sometimes that helps me visualize. Is, what are you passionate about? Might be helpful to think about things that are maybe in your space, if it's your room, or things that you look up on your phone or on social media. Like, things that you're actively learning about, things that you surround yourself with, or maybe a subject in your class that you really resonate with and are like, if I were to explore this more, what could I find out? So what are you passionate about? So if you have that idea in your mind of what you're passionate about, is there an issue or question that you would like to ask to help you address that issue or to help the community? So as an example, I am passionate about public health and the health sciences. So with that passion, I might think about, okay, if there's this specific health disparity within my community, what can I do to improve that health disparity? As an example, because I am having to do this with my PhD, because that is a research degree as well, is related to breast cancer screening. So my topic is on cancer screening rates within tribal communities. So that's my topic there. How would you frame that question as a scientific topic? So I have my passion, what it is that I want to focus on. So how do I frame breast cancer screening as a scientific topic? And that's what I'm working on now in school, actually. So I can understand that it's a little difficult to frame it sometimes, but that's what we're here to help you with. And then the last thing to think about is what ways could you test or gather data on this topic? So for me, if I'm looking at breast cancer, I might say, how do American Indian or Native American screening rates compare to other racial and ethnic groups? Or I might say, if there's a group of people who are compliant with their screening, so going in and getting screened for mammography, what are some reasons as to why those individuals decided to get screened versus people who didn't get screened? What are some barriers? So that could be my research topic. And then how would I test this, or how would I gather data on this topic? There's a lot of different ways I could ask people, I could get a small set focus group and ask people like, hey, are you compliant with mammography screening recommendations? What are some reasons that motivated you to do this? I could also ask a group of other people who might not be compliant and say, maybe why have you not done it yet? Or what are some barriers that are there for why you haven't done it yet? I could completely skip asking people. I could look at survey data or medical claims data, things like that. So there's different ways to test things. And so with your topic, it might be something completely different, and that's fine. It could be, if you want to do something with water, it could be using the water quality test kits that we have. It could be taking different samples and comparing the samples against one another to see what the results are. It could be, I'm taking this water sample and I am treating it somehow or doing something to it, and I want to see how it's changed over time. Someone asked, would it work if you compared the water from Old Pascua to New Pascua? That could be something to see if there's a difference between tribal water quality depending on the location. So that's possible. If that's something you're thinking of doing, I would think of like what are the water sources that you're going to be comparing them with, and how many samples you will want to do to compare, you know, and sort of thinking of, it's always great to think of like the why behind why you want to do that as well, because that also might help you determine some of those other things that you're thinking about, like how many samples, you know, those sorts of things. So thank you for asking that question. All right. So thank you for taking the time to think about those things. Hopefully you have that in the back of your mind as we continue through this topic. And if you're not sure at this moment, it's okay. We'll continue to work on those things throughout these workshops and throughout the academic year. And just wanting here to show you all different Indigenous geoscientists and researchers in a lot of different areas and fields. I already talked about Dr. Carletta Chief, who's Dene and works at the hydrology department here at the University of Arizona. We also have Dr. John Herring, or MS, he has a Master's of Science in Aeronautical Engineering. I see him a lot at ACES conferences, and I think that he might be, someone can Google it or something. He might be like the first Native astronaut. Hopefully I'm not speaking incorrectly, but I believe that that's what he's known for. I've met him, he's really nice. Dr. Robin Wall Kimmer, there is a really great book that I think it's called Braiding Sweetgrass, where she talks about plant ecology and sort of how her community, her teachings and things, and observing Mother Nature really informed her desire to go to college, and has informed her methods for studying plant ecology. Other examples here, also from biological oceanography, environmental sciences, biological and environmental engineering. Shout out to the other two, Dr. Lydia Jennings, and also Dr. Chris Yazzie, because they graduated from the University of Arizona. Dr. Lydia Jennings is Pascoyaqui and works for environmental sciences. She did a postdoc at Arizona State for a while, and I believe now she is a professor over at Dartmouth. And Dr. Chris Yazzie graduated with a degree in environmental science, or sorry, environmental engineering, and also is part of a band. I forget the name of the band, but we saw them at the fair last year. They performed. It's like a rockabilly group. I can't remember, but goes to show that even if you're in STEM, you don't have to just do one thing. You can also be in a band. And if you're still on the fence, like, I don't know how much I am into STEM, and that's part of being NASEP, is helping me learn about what topic I might want to study in school, but I'm not quite certain yet. I want you to know that every area of degrees in education has their own version of research. So regardless of what you end up on and what you decide to do, this experience will enrich your understanding of the world, and also will inform any area that you go into for college and beyond. So know that this is going to be worthwhile and is something that will be a great learning experience. So take a break here if you need to. Take a moment to stretch. I'm going to stretch my chair. Just some arm stretches. Take a sip of water, or maybe look away from the screen if you need to, because I know that it can be tiring. And in the chat, I would like you all to put in what you think research is. In your own words, what do you think research is? You can also unmute and say it as well if you don't want to type. But what do you think research is? What do you think research is? I received one comment that says gathering information. So gathering data, yeah. Research is the practice of conducting and gathering information based on a given topic and a study about a topic you are interested in. I agree with all of these. Excuse me. To get a deeper understanding of a topic, yep. Searching for bits of information to come to a conclusion. Yeah, these are great. All right, so thank you all for that. Your responses. Got another one, gathering information on a certain topic you're interested in order or doing a more extensive look. Sorry, it's moving up as I'm reading, so that's why my reading is disjointed. It is committing an investigation of a topic. Is someone gonna say off mute? I hear somebody unmuted. Go ahead. Maybe not. Okay. So to make a piece of information seem more than what it was, the collection of data from a population of organisms, environment, or any given area, detailed study, developing a new understanding, gathering information on a given topic. I think research is somewhat like an investigation into a subject or topic in order to discover other things, or even revisiting or revising facts, conducting experiments on a topic to prove your hypothesis right or wrong. Yes, all of these are great responses and do describe research in a lot of different ways. And I also appreciate that it's pretty broad because it can apply to a lot of different things. As mentioned before with the STEM Push Network, it's education based. And so some people might think like, you can't do research on education because it doesn't include numbers, you're not taking samples and things like that. But as we'll learn within the different workshops, there's qualitative research, there's quantitative research, one's about like quantity is numbers based and things like that. So that's where you really get your numbers outputs. And then there's qualitative where you might be asking people questions and they're providing responses, or you're seeing changes in different things over time. So within STEM Push, we think of how we can improve sort of an educational topic. It could be efficacy in STEM or STEM communication. And we discuss how we're going to test that idea that we have. And then at the end, we decide, okay, so what is our measure of success or improvement? And so even within a lot of different areas that aren't considered STEM, there's also research in there as well. So thank you for your different definitions there. You all said this already, but research is the process of gathering information, facts, ideas, models, and more to inform you on the realities and conclusions of your experiment. And this begins with background information. You already knew, helping you choose your experiment and project. So again, referencing back to that pre-assignment or even that activity that we did previously, just to think about what you're passionate about. What's a topic that you would want to discuss? How would you test it? So that is sort of helping you choose your experiment. And once you decide that, you might have to do a little bit more research to figure out like, okay, so if I am having this idea, what is the baseline or the background, so that I have some better understanding of where we're sort of starting, what's already known, so that I can see what I can do a little bit differently that will add to the understanding of whatever topic I'm choosing. So that's part of looking at existing published articles and research in your field of study to be able to figure out those things I just discussed. What can you do different things related to the methods and whatnot. I'm doing that right now with my dissertation, and reading other papers and seeing how they test things is really helpful. All right, I'm going to be opening another Zoom poll here, and this one is going to have two different questions. It's asking me to. Okay, so I'm going to open another Zoom poll. The first one is going to be asking, what kinds of things would you be interested in researching? That's the first question. And then the second question is, what research tools and tips have worked for you? So the first question, think back either to your pre-assignment, or maybe you've had a change of heart since then, but that could be helpful to think about your geoscience project topic, to inform what you might be interested in researching, or even the activity that we just did when you thought of what you're passionate about. So what sort of thing would you be interested, what sort of topic would you be interested in researching? And then the second question is, what tools and tips have worked for you when doing research? Because I know that you all have had to do research papers. You can think of it that way, like research papers where you've had to look up something and report back on what you've learned. So what tools and tips work for you when maybe doing research papers, or if you've done a science project or topic of the sorts before, what did you do? What things did you use to help you complete that paper project? This is here. And if this poll doesn't appear for you for some reason, feel free to put it in the chat as well. Oh, some of you have already did that. Great. Very smart. Well, 40 more seconds. Ten seconds. Close it. All right, so I'm going to share the results with you all. It's showing to you all, I think, but I can't see it, so I'm going to open it up. Okay. I'm just going to read them since it's not shown to anybody. Okay. So some folks are wanting to look at forestry, but specifically with light pollution in national parks, something related to health sciences, something with humans or animals with water quality, space and stars, lack of electricity on tribal nations or contamination in water, one on automated, I forgot what AI stands for, but AI. Public health and water quality, diabetes, water resources and the effect of global warming, renewable energy, plant sciences, economic disparities, water quality and pesticides, and also something in water quality. These are a lot of great ideas. This is really cool. And research tips and tools. So using a timer and scheduling out for when to do research on certain topics, looking at other papers and seeing how this can inform experiments that you're planning to do, starting early, setting a goal, having an idea in mind, organization, also having some understanding of how outside factors can impact studies. So how do you control for those factors? Doing online research and looking at multiple sources, not just one type of source, and taking time. So I'm also taking this into consideration because I do have a goal of trying to get my doctoral prospectus done soon. So I'm appreciating remembering that these are things that I need to follow as well. So thank you all for your feedback. All right. So I want you to know that when we first did the research topic, a lot of what we did was in the geoscience, but we want to make sure that you all are able to do something that is what you're passionate about, something that maybe you want to study when you're in college. So we've really broadened it, and that's great because these are all the different science fair categories that are available at the International Science and Engineering Fair, which is what ISEF stands for. And because all of the other science fairs want to qualify for the International Science and Engineering Fair, they also have all of these science fair categories as well. So for those of you that said you wanted to do something with animal sciences there. There's also one that has to do with physics and astronomy, so space, plant sciences, health sciences, but environmental sciences as well, but a lot of other areas. So if you're thinking like, I wasn't really certain, but after seeing all of these different categories, I might decide to do something in biology or chemistry. But there's a lot of different areas to choose from. So I want you to know that the sky's the limit with what it is that you want to do. So think big, and we can figure out what it is that we can do to support you with that. And I know that folks were asking for sort of a rubric with what's going on with the different projects. And so the best thing that I'm going to be presenting here that's going to be really helpful is this project guide from the Southern Arizona Research and Engineering Foundation. So I'm going to switch my view here. Second. Yep, okay. Hopefully here you are seeing the website, and this is their guide to creating a project. So determine if you your team size, we have had individuals who completed this individually, but we also had people who did it in teams. I don't think you can do it in four and above for the high school projects, but you can do smaller sizes, either 2 or 3 folks. I believe that we gave you all notebooks. You can use that as a lab journal of sorts to write different things down with your process, your methods, with your things that you observe, your results and things. So this is just a recommended tool to have. And yeah, start thinking about what the topic that you want to choose is. We looked at the project categories, and certain topics are prohibited, so this might be a good thing to look at. We did say sky's the limit, but there are some limits with things, I guess, in terms of ethics and whatnot too. So I retract my previous statement, but yes, there are some things that can't be done within the science fair realm, but you can learn more about that here. Ask questions, identify problems, develop and use methods, plan how you're going to investigate, document your procedure in that lab notebook, carry out the investigation, collect the data, review the data, perform calculations, figure out how you're going to communicate the results out to folks, if it's going to be in a graph, a table, through photos, time lapses, depending on what it is that your topic is, and determine, did this adhere to whatever your hypothesis is, or was your hypothesis not supported? And with either outcome, sort of providing further explanation for why you think things came out the way that it did. And also determining what could be done differently if you tested that again, or if it did support your hypothesis, what's the next step that you would do to further investigate something, or maybe something you learned from your research, you want to further explore something that you learned from there. And then presentation is important because part of the scientific process is not only doing the research and developing it, but also sharing out what you learned with the community, because that's how people learn about not how you not only learn because you're explaining it to others, but that's also how the community learns, because science is part of community as well. So create the presentation. This could be through a research poster or through slides and things like that. It could also be through a research report as well. And for some fairs, they do want you to have a research report. The nice thing about that is a lot of what goes into your presentation is also what goes into your report. However, the report might be a little bit longer. It's usually a little bit longer because the presentation is supposed to be concise and easily digestible from the community to be able to read and understand. But with the research report, you can take snippets of what it is in your report and put that into your project. So they inform one another basically. And then get ready to compete at a fair. So if it's at SARSEF, if it's the one in your community, if it's at the ACES one, that's what you prepare for. Steps for that as well, because you're communicating out. Will help you practice. We'll also provide feedback on making edits to your presentation. And then also knowing what the judging criteria is important as well. We've had times where maybe we've set up posters at the Arizona State Fair, Science Fair, for competition, but maybe somebody wasn't able to travel down in person. So how much of the interview impacts your score? You could still compete without an interview, but I guess the reason I say that is just to know what the judging criteria is, what they look at is important, for those awards as well. Getting help. We're here to provide feedback, but also looking at data, to see how this can inform your original work. And then I also want to share this 8-step process here as well. And I'm going to share it out via email for folks to see. Any questions from folks so far? So this is the SARSEF step-by-step process. So it's some of the similar things we just saw on the website, but this is a little bit more condensed, rather looking through the pages and pages of those things. But again, generate a question, plan your research, prepare to investigate, perform investigations, perform iterations, analyze and interpret data, form conclusions, and then create a presentation. So I'll be sending that out to folks as well. To the presentation here. All right, so here is an example of a poster presentation. So having your title, who the author is, any sort of credit that you want to do to your school and whatnot. Here, having your introduction and hypothesis. So what is the background for what it is that you're discussing and researching? What do you think is going to happen? What materials do you need to test what it is that you're looking at? And also, what's the process for doing so? Any sort of visuals. So if you have graphs or if you want to show where you've taken water samples from, if there's a change happening over time that you want to have photos of. That's also related here to the results and graphs as well. Did what you test come out the way that you thought? If not, why? If yes, why? Here's where your references would go and any sort of acknowledgements. So that's one example. Here is from the student I had shown previously, Shauna Greyeyes, who went to Covino High School. Her project was on water in Shanto, and so this graph here shows the different locations that she took the water, included how the water samples look. Just visually here, you can see that this one is a little bit darker. It would be, to me as a viewer, it's like, okay, so that one's darker. Was the water different than the other ones because it visibly looks different. She discussed these were the materials that I used. So hers is formatted a little bit differently, but the items that are needed are still there. So that's what matters. So stating that she used the water quality test kits. This is how you use the test kits, and this is how many that I had. Again, discuss the results here. So she has a nice bar graph for water hardness and pH. Also talk more about the results here, and then discussed what these factors are influenced by, and then conclusions here with also the references. Here are other examples. They're also formatted a little bit differently, but you'll see that it has an introduction. It includes the research question and methods, and then the results. And you might also take a moment to look and see like, okay, this stands out to me as a viewer. This is something that I want to incorporate in my poster or my presentation, or maybe this didn't work out as well to me, so maybe I'm gonna do mine a little bit differently. You know, it's really great to look at how other people have done their projects and formatted because you're able to critique it and say what you want to adopt or what you might want to change. Let's see here. Here's another example. This was from Sam Enos, who was our graduate assistant 2 years ago and is now an epidemiologist with the Tribal Health Center over in California. But she was looking at gender identity. But yeah, this is her poster. There was one other example that I wanted to show, and it was from a student. This is a little bit different because so far we've been looking at research posters. This is a presentation that a student did. So instead of formatting it like a instead of formatting it in the same way they did a presentation. So this is their introduction. Oh, let me see. So this is their research question. They're looking at how does a saguaro landscape, urban or natural, impact the rate of photosynthesis as shown through the outer layers of the pleated epidermis, so the outer skin of the cacti. They also included the methodology here, the results, and then interpretation. So this is sort of like the abstract. They have everything that you would want to know on the very first slide to sort of say, like, this is what I did, this was the conclusion, and now we're going to go further into the topic a little bit more within the presentation. So this is their introduction. This is their research question and hypothesis. This is their procedure, and they took photos of samples of like the seed pods. Negative sample, I guess this is showing an example of dead cacti. This is the procedures area, including photos of how they compare data that they were looking at. The graph, which is always helpful. Photos of the samples here. Oh, another graph sort of comparing side by side. So the urban environment samples and the natural environment samples. Conclusion, implications, and future research and references. So similar things here. And if a student wanted to turn this research presentation into a poster, they could just take the different snippets from these and copy and paste it into the format for the other things that we saw earlier. So they all sort of inform one another, and just how you're presenting it is how you'll tweak it so that it's easier to be consumed by whoever you're presenting it to. So going back to our slides here. So we are still collecting the pre-assignments if you haven't completed it yet. And that's sort of the first stage of developing your research topic and questions. Things that you could have done were conducting interviews in your community, researching, it says environmental issue here, but it could have been any sort of issue, or looking at the guidelines to how your tribe approaches research. So those were the 3 different topics. You didn't have to choose all 3 of them. You only had to choose one. And so if you haven't done that yet, and are struggling to determine what your topic might be, maybe take some time to look at that pre-assignment and completing it so that it can sort of further along your thinking of what you might want to do. I will put the pre-assignment in the chat if anyone needs it. And I'll also email it out again. as well. And the pre-assignment, we had it due on September 21st, I believe, but we're gonna continue accepting it throughout the semester. So don't feel like just because the timeline that we set has passed that you can't do it. Again, it's an important part of thinking about what topic you might want to choose. So we're willing to accept it at any point. Okay. Oh, I think I just sent it to one person. Let me redirect it to everyone in the meeting. There. So if you needed the pre-assignment, it's there in the chat. I'll also be sending it back out as well. And for those of you who submitted it already, we're going to be providing feedback. We've been taking a look and we'll be sending you notes on what you've submitted and sort of providing additional questions and support for what it is that you're asking. Thank you for asking that question. If you have any other questions, feel free to continue putting them in the chat. So key takeaways from this workshop is to understand that we've always been scientists, Indigenous people have always been scientists, and we play an important role within research, that every subject has their own version of research. So participating in this project will be beneficial to you, regardless of what it is you decide to go on to study within college. And hopefully seeing examples of different research posters, different research presentations, help you see what's required for this project and will help you start to develop a plan for how you might tackle it. And in the end, our goal for NASEP is to develop and presenting research topics at a science fair or within your community. And again, we're very flexible. So if you decide, like, I just want to present to the NASEP team, you can also do that as well. So we're willing to work with you on what it is that you want to do, or even if you want to present within your community, like at your class or something, your science class, we've had students do that as well. We are here to provide additional support for you to be able to complete this project. So here I have a website link. So it's, go back. It's nasep.arizona.edu/staff. And on there, you're going to see the staff profiles. So you can go to me, click me, and this is what you'll see. Schedule a meeting with Carol. It'll have a multitude of times throughout the week and day. You can even go in advance and say, like, this is when I want to meet with Carol. It'll set up a meeting on my calendar, either to be like on Zoom or through a phone call. So if you're having additional questions and you need support, we can schedule those meetings outside of the workshops to get that individualized support. And this is also available with Sophia as well. If you have a question about college or something and you want to discuss something that's related to that, you can schedule a meeting with us as well. It doesn't just have to be research project related, these meetings. We know that a lot of you are seniors this year, and if you're needing support, we're happy to provide support in that way as well. There was a student last year who was applying to the University of Arizona from out of state and had a lot of different questions. And so they utilized this meeting feature to talk to us about getting housing, applying for scholarships and different things like that too. So this is just another way for us to be more accessible to you to make sure that we're helping you meet your goals. Yeah. So are there any questions at the moment? I'm going to go through what was seen or submitted at the beginning of the workshop to make sure that I at least answer some of your questions or am on the way to answering some of your questions. So feel free to put them in the chat at this time if I haven't answered one of your questions yet, or if you have additional questions that have come up since. So the question about if it has to be environmental science or something else, it can be in anything. If you want to do something with your astronomy class, you can. Pictures are allowed. Hopefully, if you didn't understand what the research project is at this time, you have a little bit of a better understanding. And if you're the person who submitted this, if I am not answering it, please let me know. I got a question on if this is an individual project, you can do it in groups up to 3, I believe. So it doesn't have to be individual, but it can be. There aren't necessarily specific topics that would need to be covered within the project. It's up to what you would want to look at. The assignment feedback is coming. Hopefully by next week, we'll have the feedback. SARCEF dates, I believe SARCEF is in March most times. I can check on that too. But it should be on the NASEP on a page. Okay, I can actually look at their website actually. Dates. Okay, so if you're for the individual asking about SARCEF, project registration for SARCEF opens on February 1st and it closes on February 22nd. So that's when February 22nd is the deadline for SARCEF, when that needs to be finished. And they have a short window for when you can make updates to your project. It's about like 2 days, but the virtual exhibit hall goes live on February 28th. So I imagine you have to have everything set in stone by February 28th, 2026. And then the interviews and judging are in person on March 3rd. So based off of that timeline, there's a few months until then, but it's important to start early, as you all said. And then it is like a science project. It's not necessarily rounds. I think the only entry that's not like a science fair type thing is the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. They do things a little bit differently. They focus more on like oral presentations. So I feel like that one would be more like a round event. But most times you have a set judging time, or you're standing there with your project and the judges will come around and ask you questions and things and take notes of what it is that we're presenting. So I think that that's all of the questions. So any other questions? No. Okay, so we're coming up on time. Thank you all for being here. Our next workshop is going to be October 14th. A handy way to remember is we're having these every 2 weeks. So today's the 30th. 2 weeks from now is October 14th. And then 2 weeks from now, or from the 14th, is going to be the 28th. So we'll have them every 2 weeks. If you want to put that on your calendar, I can also forward a calendar invite to folks if that's helpful. Because I know that our phones all have calendars, so I can set that up as well. And it's going to be at the same time. So for those of you that observe daylight savings time, right now we are not on the same time as some of you. So once we hit daylight savings time and what does it fall back, we'll be on the same time. So it'll be at 5:30 for you once we are on daylight savings time. For some of you, it might be at 6:30, but we're not changing the time. It's going to be from 5:30 to 7 Tucson time at all times. And if for some reason we have to make an adjustment, if something happens, we'll try to communicate the change to you all in advance. But for the most part, it's always going to be every 2 weeks. So with that, thank you all for being here. I hope that you all are more informed about the expectations and sort of the layout of the project and are starting to think of what it is that we want to do. I'm gonna stay on for a little bit longer if you want to stay on and if you have any questions individually. But we'll see you all on October 14th. See you later. Bye.